Oh boy, I've got some bad news and some good news. The bad news is I feel worse than yesterday. I do not feel great. But we have off tomorrow. No video tomorrow. Next video will be on Sunday. So I just got to power through this one. And then Sunday, hopefully I'll be feeling top shelf again. Right now it's a little rough, but that's okay. The good news is that we are only 1 week away from one lucky subscriber taking home this entire master set of Stellar Crown. That's right, every single card that you can pull from a booster pack is in this custom etched binder that was put together by the Unlucky Collector on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow. He does amazing work. Every new set release that comes out, we give away a master set to one lucky subscriber. It's filled with every single card, every holo, every reverse holo, every common and uncommon, double rare, ultra rare, illustration rare, hyper rare, special illustration rare. It's got everything. And we give it to one lucky subscriber. And if you want to win, here's all you have to do. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel. So scroll down and hit that subscribe button. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to put an image of a thumbnail right up here from last Thursday where we talk about the Stellar Crown Master Set. You're going to want to go over to that video, and I'll link it in the description below. Leave a like and a comment on that video. Boom, you're entered. So subscribe and then leave a like and a comment on that video. Boom, you're entered. Come back next Friday to see if you are the winner. One lucky subscriber is going to take that home, and then we'll do another one for Surging Sparks. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Surging Sparks look really fun, but let's focus on Stellar Crown. Because it's been out for a week right now, and we're going to talk about price drops. I don't know what you're thinking. Hey, Fanny, we talk about this every single set. Every set release, prices drop. I understand that. Yeah, they do. They drop every single set release. Obviously, it's common economics, more supply, less demand. Supply eats demand, or beats demand, and all of a sudden prices start going down, especially because it's a race to the bottom on TCG Player all the time. I get that. But the significance is in the percentage of the drop. So how high something drops, how far something falls is very significant as far as the legs go of a set. It also is very significant because it really tells you what cards are going to perform better, what cards people are looking at, and what cards you want to pay attention to moving forward, because if you have duplicates or triplicates of them that you want to trade off to help further your master set journey or your card collecting journey, it's important to know what is going on. We've had really significant drops in the past, like Battle Styles, for example, we knew was going to be an absolute rubbish set because it had nothing but 80% drops on singles throughout the entire first week. It was absolutely terrible. And then we saw sets like Twilight Masquerade, some of the illustration rares, some of the special illustration rares stay relatively flat. So let's play a game for a second. I want to know what your guess is. What card, what ultra rare do you think dropped the most in its first week? And what card, what ultra rare do you think gained the most? Because there were a few cards that actually went up from where they were. What I did was I screenshotted all the pricing from last Friday, right when cards went on sale on TCG Player for the public. Obviously, the first couple of weeks before a set release, only pre-order stores who are verified by TCG Player can sell singles on TCG Player. And then Friday morning, a set release happens, and all of a sudden, it's fair game for everybody. So that's when I screenshot everything. And then we looked last night to see where prices were, and then I calculated the price gain or the price drop over the past week. So I want to know, comment down below with what you think lost the most and which card you think gained the most. It is interesting to look at. But before we jump into the actual price drops, I do have something to show you that I think is going to be very, very beneficial to anybody, whether you're a card collector or a store owner, or whether you're just, a casual fan, a competitive player. It doesn't matter. So this is just tcgplayer.com. So all I did was I just typed in Terapagos EX up here. So you can see right now the market price for Terapagos EX is currently sitting at $13.65. Terapagos EX is one of those cards that right now I am watching. I think it's really important to watch right now because it was not legal last week for competitive play, but it will be legal soon. So it's going to be starting to be played in League Cups, in League Challenges, and then soon to be regional events. And how it performs is going to dictate how well it does in the Pokemon card market. So not a whole lot of fans really excited about the gold card, the hyper rare over here. And because of that, you can see 124 listings. But the Terapagos EX regular art is down to 49 listings currently on TCG Player. So it's starting to rival that of the special illustration rare, which is currently sitting at 38. So if we click on this right now, and we look down here, we make sure that our filters are correct. Near mint telephone, yeah, it's dropped a lot over the past 3 months. We got that. Obviously, pre-order pricing started out pretty insane. It started out $25.94, but you can see what it's done over the past week or so. If we're looking right around release day here, so this is September 13th, it dropped down to $10.18. So it has gone up a few dollars since then because it's currently sitting at $13.65. But if you look at the quantity of sales, so 192 that were sold on the 15th, 162 that were sold on on the 16th, 161 that were sold on the 17th, 123 that were sold on the 18th. So it's starting to dwindle a little bit, but still over 100 that were being sold. And right now there's only 50 listings. So this is a supply and demand issue, right? Because if there's over 100 that are selling on a daily basis, this needs to make sure that it meets demand, or otherwise it's going to continue to inch its way up. So that's why we're starting to see Terapagos do very well and hit $13.65 when only a week ago it was down to $10.18. So then I'll scroll down here, I'll look at the listings, I'll say who has multiple copies available. You can see here we're all the way up to $14.60 plus 99 cents shipping, so that's $50 or $15.59, and they only have one available. You can look at the you can change it to a filter of sellers who have at least 4 available, so you can see what it looks like, because people would want to play set if they're going to play competitively, and your cheapest ones are $17.99, and then GameNut has them for basically $20 a piece. So this card is definitely something that is interesting to watch, especially over the next several days. Now, it's going to be very dependent on how it performs, right? Like if it doesn't do well at events, it's not going to do well in the market. But if it does do well at events, and people might be like, hey, Fanny, should I trade off my extra Terapagoses now? I would wait a little bit. Let's see how it does first before we make that decision, especially because we still have that Terapagos Ultra Premium Collection that's coming out down the road. There's only 3 available copies right now. There's just the regular art, there's just the gold card, the hyper rare, and the special illustration rare, but starting to do extremely well. Along with that are 2 different cards. So we've got Area Zero Underdepths, which I've searched for over here. Still 448 listings. That's quite a bit. Obviously, 448 listings is a lot. Only 94 on the gold card, but this is something that players are going to use in their decks for Terapagos. So because of how beneficial it is to having Terra Pokemon. So if we look, so right now it's filtered to, it's always important to look at this near mint, reverse hollow. We don't want that. We just want near mint, and then we just want normal. We don't want to look at the reverse hollow right now. I don't know why it defaults to random stuff all the time, but if we look at just the last month here, so it's starting to inch up a little bit. You can see on release day right here, it was selling for about 29 cents, but look at the amount of copies that were sold. 1,391 sold on September 12th. September 13th, there were 605, 844, and then on the 15th, if we look on the 18th, there was 402. So there's a lot that are selling on a daily basis, considering the fact that we've got 215 listings that are just normal quality, normal printing, near mint printing, and that's why you're starting to see this inch up a little bit. So it's another card that's very interesting to look at. You look at a card like Night Stretcher, for example, which is a very playable card from Shrouded Fable. That card just continues to climb up higher and higher and higher as more and more supply diminishes off of TCG players. So that's one you want to keep your eye on, and the other one is Glass Trumpet right here. This is another, it's kind of like a dark patch for your Terra Pokemon, right? It lets you choose 2 of your bench Pokemon and attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of them, only if you have Terra Pokemon in play. So this is another card, but if you look at the quantities that have sold, look at this, September 9th to the 11th, 1,877 that have sold. If you look at the 12th to the 14th, 1,377, the 15th to the 17th, slowed down a little bit, 533. But you've got 496 listings. If you change this to just near mint and just normal, you've got 209 current listings. So it's starting to creep up just a little bit, 25 cents. Now it's currently sitting at 26 cents. And it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds moving forward. If we change the filter again to sellers with at least 4, and you look at it here, then all of a sudden you're looking at a few more available. So 35 cents, 35 cents, 35 cents for 20 available, and then you've got some over here, 35 cents for 57, and then it just continues to go up from there. So definitely a few cards from Stellar Crown that you might just want to keep an eye on moving forward to see how things go in the near future. And I thought that was important to kind of show, because that's kind of stuff that I look at. So I figured hopefully you guys find that beneficial. So now we're going to look at the actual price drops, and we'll go through these relatively quickly. So hopefully you got your guesses in down below. We're going to start out just at the top here. We've got the special illustration rare Terapagos, which started out at about $132. Only dropped about 15%, which really isn't bad at all. Currently sitting at $111.75. The Lacey did take a pretty big hit. A normal hit, I would say, is probably around 30 to 40%. That's pretty much what we expect to see for an opening week release of a new set. Anything more than 40, 45%, that's a little bit big. And then you start getting to like 60, 70, 80%, and those are massive drops, which means there's just no demand for those cards whatsoever. The Lacey dropped almost 50%. So it was a $100 card. You can see $97.83 on release release day, and it dropped all the way down to $49.44. So it's dropped almost 50%, despite pull rates being a little tough. But you can see not a whole lot of demand on that card. There's still 84 available, which is about double what we see from the Terapagos, and even higher than the amount of Hydrapple EX special illustration rares that are available. So that one started out at $54.68 for the Hydrapple, dropped about 36%, which is very normal, down to about $34.83. I was personally expecting some bigger drops than what we're looking at here, because Stellar Crown seems to be a much popular set than what we've seen for the last couple of releases. A lot more product got opened, and because of that, I thought some of these cards were going to drop a lot more than what they did. But the Galvantula EX, which started out at about $49.32, dropped only about 39%, so it's sitting at $30.27. The Squirtle, probably the chase card for a lot of people in the set, relatively flat for the entirety of the week. So $42.64 is where it started on release day, and it's currently sitting at $41, so $40.99. It only dropped about 4% over the past week, which is very strong. And Squirtle, while it's not the easiest card to pull, having a small amount of illustration rares in the set makes it more likely that one of those illustration rares that you pull is going to be a Squirtle. So that's pretty cool as well, having a little bit smaller of a set, which makes it a little bit better than those bloated sets like what we've seen from Paldea Evolved and Paradox Rift. The special illustration rare Briar did really well over the past week. It only dropped about 25%, going from $37.52 down to $28.12. Then we've got the Area Zero Underdepths, which we just talked about. This is the hyper rare. It dropped from $37.13 down to $20.15, so a little bit larger of a drop, 45.73%. The Terapagos gold card dropped about 43% as well, from $35.70 down to $20.23. Now we've got the other big illustration rare in the set, which is the Bulbasaur. Very cool artwork on this one. Started out about $33.09. It did dip below $30 briefly, and then kind of climbed back up a little bit. And overall, only dropped about 3% for the week. So it's sitting at $32 and a penny right now. So very flat over the first week. Then we've got the Doxbun EX right there. This one went from $32.81 down to $25.72. So only about a 21.5% drop for that one, which isn't bad. Bravery Charm took a pretty big hit. This one went from $19.46 down to $9.93, which was a little bit bigger than I anticipated, just because I know Bravery Charm is a somewhat competitive card, but it dropped about 48.97% and is now sitting under $10. Here's that Terapagos we were just talking about. This one actually moved up a little bit more this morning. Its market price last week was $12.93. Now it's a little bit higher than that, so it did gain a little bit in its first week, but when we looked last night, it was down about 1 percentage point to $12.79. So Terapagos doing extremely well right now. Then we've got Zero Aura over here. This illustration rare dropped about 39% from $10.92 down to $6.62. One thing that we've learned is that outside of that Squirtle and outside of that Bulbasaur, there's not a whole lot of excitement behind a lot of the illustration rares. So as cool as this Zero Aura is, a lot of the illustration rares not doing super well in the set. The Full Art Lacey got absolutely destroyed. This one dropped over 61% from $7.34 down to $2.85. The Briar only dropped about 12%. Now there's a lot of potential with Briar as far as the competitive format goes. It went from $7.21 down to about $6.31, so it dropped about 12.5%. So a very strong week, opening week for the Briar right there. Then we've got the Reboot right there, from $6 and a penny down to $4 and a penny, so it dropped about 33%. The Lapras EX Full Art Terra, that's the first one we've seen that's actually gone up in price. So that one started out about $5.50. It's currently sitting at $5.71. So not a big gain, relatively flat for the week, but at least in the positive, sitting at 3.82 percentage points as far as the gain goes. The Joltik, very cool looking artwork, not doing too bad, only dropped about 1.5%, but it didn't start out very expensive, right? It started out at $5.22, currently sitting at $5.14, so relatively flat for that first week. Then we've got the Crabominable, currently at $1.92. This card got hit pretty hard. Started out at $4.79. I think a lot of people are like, well, where is it? Like, if you look at this card in person, right now in the image that we're looking at, it's not that bad. You can kind of see the Crabominable outline, but when you look at it in person, it gets a little lost in the artwork, but it dropped about 60% down to $1.92. The Galvantula EX, these Full Art Terra cards doing a little bit better in this set, especially with that rainbow border that they have on them. $4.46 down to $3.69, so about 17% of a drop there. If you said Kofu in the comment section down below as the biggest drop of the week, you would be 100% correct. So Kofu, the Full Art Trainer, went from $4.45 down to $1.15, dropped about 74% for the week. So that's your biggest drop of all the Stellar Crown Ultra Rares. It's getting absolutely hammered. Kofu not doing very well at all. 74% of a drop over the past week. Gulpin not doing very well either. And I really like the illustration rare, so it's kind of cool that it's relatively cheap. $4.50 $2.41 is where it started out at on opening day. It's down to $2.72 right now, which is about a 38% drop. In the comment section, if you said Crispin as the card that gained the most over the past week, you would also be correct. So good job. You got the one that had the biggest drop and the one that had the biggest increase. Crispin full art doing very well. $4.39 is where it started out at on release day. Jumped up to $5.93 over the past week. So sitting at about a 35% gain over the past week, doing extremely well. Then we've got the Turtonator right there from $4.34 down to $1.57. So that one got hit pretty hard, 64% as far as the drop goes on that one. Ledian, this one got hit pretty hard as well. $4.33 down to $2.76. I guess that's only about a 36% drop, so not terrible, but it started out relatively inexpensive. The Sparkling Crystal A-Spec, we talked about these last week. The A-Specs are not going to perform really well unless it's something like a Prime Catcher. Now that Prime Catcher is getting reprinted, which is awesome, it's going to bring the price down even more. So a lot of those A-Specs not doing super well. $4.11 is where it started out at. It's dropped about 60% over the past week, down to $1.64. The Archaludon, this one took a pretty big hit from $3.85 down to $1.82. So we've already got sub $2 illustration rares that are all over the place. About a 53% drop on that Archaludon. The Cinderace actually went up a little bit, about 2.49%. So relatively flat from $3.61 up to $3.70. The Milcery getting close to that $2 mark. Started out at $3.29. Now it's down to $2.15. That's about a 34.5% drop on that one. The A-Spec Grand Tree dropped about 69%, so that one got hit really hard from $3.15 down to 97 cents. Then we've got a few more that we're going to look at. Metatite dropped about 36%. That one went from $3.02 down to $1.94. Super cheap on that one. The Doxbun, look at that, already at $1.11 for that one. It's dropped about 61% over the past week. The Hydrapple is one of the few cards that did go up. It's up about 12% over the past week from $2.77 up to $3.10. There's a lot of people who like Hydrapple. Also, it has a little bit of potential. We'll see how it does, but about a 12% gain on that one. And then the last three that we're going to look at, the Lapras EX, this is just the regular Artera. This one dropped down to $1.10, so about a 59% drop over the past week. The Galvantula EX, which thought might do okay competitively, really isn't looking like it's going to do too great. Went from $2.66 down to $1.68, so that one dropped about 37%. And then finally the Leap, this one actually did go up a little bit, but look at how low it started. $2.07 is where it started, and it did jump up to $2.16, so about 4%. And then this last page, the Hydrapple stayed relatively flat for the regular art. The Orthworm is down about 37% to $1.02. And the Metacham, a full art Pokemon card that can be had and can be yours for only 85 cents already 1 week after release, which is absolutely insane. That just goes to show you how much product gets open to see prices already below $1 for full arts, which full arts are a little bit more rare than a lot of other cards in the set. So very interesting to see. I hope you enjoyed the content. I'm sorry that I sound terrible. I promise it'll get better soon. But if you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, I just really appreciate you guys. So thank you so much for letting me talk and listening and talking back and commenting. You guys are absolutely amazing. I love you. We'll be back on Sunday, hopefully sounding a lot better. Till next time, peace.